Hello everyone, SMA Watts here, and we are going to be playing some Legacy Tribal Apocalypse. This is the Pure event, and the deck we're going to be playing for it is this Knights deck here. And Knights is one of those decks that I find to be in a weird position, like in most metagames, of it plays really, it's really good at beating very fair decks. And since tribal decks tend to have to be at least somewhat fair, especially in Pure when a lot of the backbreaking combo stuff has already been banned. I built this deck to primarily be able to feast upon very aggressive decks. Like, it has a lot of protection from red, a lot of protection from black. It has a lot of first strike, so it can very easily play defense and then eventually just kill them with either Curse Scroll to get that incremental advantage of blowing up the creatures or going to the dome, or just eventually getting the Knight Exemplars in play, and then just using your Exalted Knights as sort of an abyss. Or just Hero Blade Hold and just overwhelming them. So it has it can also be reasonably aggressive, as if you go like Knight of Glory into Sigiled Paladin into like Mirren Crusader. You're very, very aggressive that way too. Because, I mean, you can easily attack with like a 6/6 or 7/7 Mirren Crusader sometimes. That's both double striking and indestructible. We're running now. This deck could have been mono white, but I chose to. Oh, that's in the wrong spot. That was what was bothering me. But I chose to go with blue-white, specifically so that I had mana leaks and had access to Detention Sphere. This could have just been Oblivion Ring, and then this would have been like 2 more Journeys to Nowhere and maybe some Honors of the Pure to be more aggressive, or like Battle Screeches or something like that. Probably Honor of the Pure though. Instead, I wanted to go with something that was more disruptive. I wanted to play this as a aggro control deck, and I think I like the way it configured. I'll have to see how it does. But so going over our list real quick, Knight of Glory, protection for black and exalted. So this guy can brick wall a aggressive vampire or zombie deck. Actually, almost everything brick walls an aggressive vampire or zombie deck because the creatures are all 2 toughness. But he's very good against those, and he can just sort of swing in freely. I also considered doing black-white and having switching out the Sigil Paladin with Knight of Infamy, so that I had a extra game plan against mono white. But I decided against that since a lot of the mono white decks in Pure tend to be Soltari, and they just kind of walk right by. Like, that is actually probably the thing that I'm most worried about is a shadow-based deck. Like, shadow deck based decks and graveyard based decks were kind of cold too. Sigiled Paladin, 2/2 first strike exalted. He's kind of cool in that he's both first strike and exalted, so he can very easily. He's big enough that he can even first strike into like 3/3s and 4/4s. So he's pretty butch like that. Silver Knight is here to kill goblins. That's what he wants to do. That's what his job is. 2/2 first strike protection from red. He basically can be the brick wall. Like, you notice a lot of these creatures are just designed they will brick wall something. But he'll be the stalwart against mono red. Mirren Crusader, also amazing against any black base, but also awesome against green based. Green based is just completely cold to him because they don't have a lot of flyers. And 4 damage will usually kill most of their creatures, so he very easily becomes just either an abyss. Either they're attacking into him and just losing creatures like an abyss, or he's just a 5-turn clock. The card that makes this deck work is Knight of Exemplar, or Knight Exemplar, because it gives all your knights +1/+1 and indestructible. It enables you to make very unfavorable attacks and still come out ahead. It also enables you to, if they're playing a bigger game than you are, just start team blocking. And yeah, you would normally lose 2 guys, but because they're indestructible, you can't. It's just one of those, like, I throw my 3/2/2s at your 5/5, and my guys live, your guy dies. So it's kind of awesome. Fiendslayer Paladin is... I didn't want to... Okay. He's sort of in this weird spot of, like, he is the extra creatures. Like, he could very easily have been a bunch of other things. But I figure, like, one of them being obviously Paladin and Core, because that one would be pro. But I figured First Strike and Lifelink are probably more relevant against aggressive red decks. And the fact that he's bolt proof is fine if they're going, and they're probably not going to have Pyroclasm to kill him. So, like, black decks also going to have trouble with him, and he races well with his lifelink. So he's a little shaky. Like, I could see a lot of arguments for running various other things over him. Like Knight of the White Orchid would probably be a reasonable play over him, as it enables you to make sure you get to the 3 mana to play our more powerful 3 mana knights. But I like him. He's cool, and he'll act as, and he makes, like, with the exalted guys, Fiendslayer Paladin can make racing impossible. Like, you can't race a 3 or 4 lifelink first striker in most matchups. It's just not going to happen. And then Hero Bladehold. This is sort of the, if all else fails, Hero Bladehold can win you the game. Like, if they have something that wipes your board, or if you just end up in, like, a stall, Battle Cry plus token generation will eventually overwhelm your opponent. All right. Because Path and Sword are not legal, I decided Curse Scroll is probably the ideal removal. Also, Punishing Fire is not legal. But, and Curse Scroll, in a lot of ways, is just the Punishing Fire, Grow with the Burnt Willows combo in an old school guise of an artifact. I mean, basically that's what that combo emulated, was Curse Scroll. So, I mean, 3 mana, do 2 damage. It's a classic card that doesn't see a lot of play, and I think part of that is just because it wasn't readily available. But with Vintage Masters, it's like a dime now, and I feel it should now make more of an impact in Tribal. It's a very powerful card for a lot of decks. Like, any deck that's going to empty its hand by turn 5 has very little excuse not to run at least 2 Curse Scrolls. Because we have because the good white removal, like the top 2 white removal spells, are not legal, we end up with Journey to Nowhere, and as I mentioned, we're running Detention Sphere and Mana Leak. We're running blue to run Detention Sphere. It also lets us run Mana Leak. So that's what we're looking at, and then we're running the Scryland, the Shockland, and the Checkland, and 22 lands because we have... we really do want to hit the 3 mana curve.